Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'll talk about the things I dislike about the main story of Yokai Watch 2 and how I change them. I've seen that Yokai Watch 2 seems to be the fan favourite, and while yes, I do think it's still an amazing game due to post-game content, the new yokai, and new features, and still think it's better than the first game, but I really don't like the main story. I really don't want to play through 2 again, but something tells me I'm going to end up playing through this game again, as I have 4 copies of the game. Bony Spirits, Fleshy Souls, physical copy of Psychic Spectres, and a digital copy of Psychic Spectres. Plus, I already beat the game recently, about a month ago, by using classic yokai only, and it was painful to play through some parts, so the footage in the background will probably be something unrelated. And with that out of the way, let's get to my first point. The first issue I will discuss is the bosses. First off, Gutsy Bones. And as much as people like him, myself included, I don't think he's a very well designed boss. He is way too weak both offensively and defensively. You see people destroying him with OP yokai, but that's not too dissimilar to someone fighting him for the first time, as he dies very quickly. Next is his gimmick. You attack the bandages covering his heart until you can attack the heart to deal way too much damage, especially if you're using a ultimate. Another thing is that you can just avoid half his attacks by just targeting the crow with the Cranky coin so he can't use it. You can literally beat him with a team of level 1 E ranks, which is literally what the footage in the background is. I'll skip to the end and show you that they managed to beat him no problem. Well, not all of them are D ranks, some of them are level 1 D ranks instead of level 1 E ranks, because they didn't have a full team of level 1 E ranks. And one of the E ranks is level 3, but I'm sure that doesn't make a difference. You also have to actually try, really hard to see his ultimate. Because with most bosses, you can occasionally see their ultimate just by playing normally. And as you can see, a team of level 1 E and D ranks just beat Gutsy Bones. I mean, yeah, it took longer than your normal Gutsy Bones, but that was about the difficulty of Slimeamander, and your yokai are supposed to be level 15 or something, and these are level 1. The next boss is hovernyan, who, in my opinion, barely even counts as a boss. Just like the Onis, hovernyan doesn't have a gimmick, and can do everything your yokai can do: attack, technique, guard, loaf. Yes, I've seen Gargos loafing, etc. Just like Gutsy Bones, he is very easy and dies quickly, though at least you can't just stop him from doing half his attacks. Another problem I have with hovernyan is that instead of being fought at the end of the chapter, he's fought right at the start. I know this makes sense story-wise, but I think he just could have been fought right at the end of the last chapter. Captain Crash, actually I have no problem with and actually like his gimmick. The next boss is Kin and Gin, which I'm mostly fine with, and I do like the gimmick of having 2 bosses at once, but they're just way too weak and die quickly. When you fight them again later using Nathaniel's team, it's one of my favourite parts of the game, even if they are still weaker. I really like using a team of Nathaniel's yokai. Next we have iClone. Now, I really don't like this chapter in general, but I'll get to that later. I think his strength and difficulty are mostly fine, but my main problem is his gimmick. First of all, the 3-eye gimmick has already been done, and better, by Slimeamander. And even in this game, I think Infinity and Cat Cradle do the eye gimmick much better. Attacking both eyes on his hands will damage him until they close completely, and after that you can only damage the middle eye, which will start closed and slowly open unless you attack it, and once it's fully open he uses his ultimate. I don't like how his hand eyes don't ever reopen once they close, like other bosses like Massive Face or McCracken. And attacking his hands also deals damage, so you can deal a bunch of damage using a ultimate that hits all targets. Believe it or not, the next boss is Dame Dead Time. I've already said some of my thoughts in my final boss video, but to recap, She's way too strong to the point where you have to grind to beat her. Not only that, but she locks you out of doing anything else but buying stuff from the Everymart and the memory store. Which is a shame, because I really like Dame Deadtime's gimmicks in both forms. Yokai Watch 2 definitely has a lack of bosses compared to the first game. Now let's fix my problems. Gutsy Bones. Make him stronger and make it harder to target the crow, like make it go away faster. Meganyan. Make him the final boss of the chapter before and give him an actual gimmick and make him stronger. Captain Crash. Wouldn't really change anything, but make it so his quest is last, so he is the final boss of the chapter. Kin and Gin, make them stronger. iClone, make his hands reopen and have the hands not damage him. Add a boss to chapter 8. I know there's the battle against Toadle Dude, or Arachnus, which I do like and provide a good challenge, and I actually lost quite a few times on my first playthrough. But I still think there should be a boss. Like, have Dame Deadtime summon a boss instead of Unfairy. Make the Muncher a boss with his own gimmick. He's a boss in the Blasters mode of this game, so why couldn't he be a boss of the main story? Niada's Trials 2 could just be you beating him but stronger, and replace Devourer with a recolor of like Lionheart or a classic evolution of Tablapa. Make Dame Deadtime weaker in both forms and give us access to everything again. And that's how I'd fix the bosses. Now let's talk about key quests. The first set of key quests I think is fine, as it introduces you to key quests and quests in general, though it doesn't have much to do with the story. The next set I think are fine too, introducing us to new mechanics like Gates of Whimsy and the Fusion quest, though I think should have maybe been optional, but it's okay, because if you're playing the game you probably want to do these things anyway. It's from here where I start to have a problem. Chapter 4's key quests, other than the sorcery quests, I don't understand. The player already knows about quests, and it's not like they teach a new game mechanic. I don't know why these are key quests, and there's no story relation whatsoever. Chapter 5's are okay, but at least they're related to the story. And I don't see why they need to be quests, it could have just been part of the story. It could just be like in Yokai Watch 1, where you need the 3 parts for the watch upgrade. The next set of quests are fine, but I still don't see why they need to be quests. They're all fine except for the Mermaiden quest. You once again have to take the train to a completely new location. Most quests that require you to befriend yokai are not too annoying, but this one needs you to befriend not 1, not 2, but 3 yokai to progress. With this game's befriending system, this can take ages and it's mandatory to move on, and this isn't even the worst one. The next chapter has 3 more quests. The Jibanyan one I don't think needs to be a key quest, and I don't understand why it's in this chapter specifically, but I guess it's cool to see Jibanyan's backstory. The rank B quest is nothing special, but the other one, Retrace Dad's Steps, might just be the worst quest in the entire Yokai Watch series, and is by far the worst offender for repeating the first game. Dad forgets his paperwork and you need to get it for him. Sound familiar? The worst chapter in the first game. You then need to go to a bunch of random train stations in order, which is really annoying and easy to accidentally not get off at the right stop, as no is the default for getting off the train. Once you've gone through all that, you make it to the office building, and now you need to befriend Flushback all the way in San Fantastico. Luckily, the 2 times I've played this game, I accidentally befriended him whilst trying to get the dancing trio. All of this is required. I don't understand the point of this. It doesn't relate to the story, it's really annoying, and all it gets you is the bike. This far into the game, after you unlock Mirapole, which didn't need a whole quest to unlock. You could have just had Dad be like, oh hey, I got you a new bike at the start, or what happened to the bike from the last game? Did it just disappear? Anyway, Niada's Trials are fine. How simple the first 2 are adds humour, but I don't think they need to be quests. Also, one thing, thank God for the quest arrow. One of my main complaints about Yokai Watch 1 was that, especially with the watch rank quests, you didn't know where to go on your first playthrough unless you knew where the academy shortcut and all the other dungeon names. Funnily enough, if it weren't for that, I probably would have never known half of those existed. I would fix these by either making them not required, not key quests but just part of the main story, requiring last yokai to befriend, and not talking about any particular one, but just outright removing them from existence. Now let's talk about one of the most criticised things about Yokai Watch 2, the train system. Where to begin? First of all, it's really confusing to people playing the game for the first time, and makes the game less accessible for people playing in another language they don't understand. Secondly, there are way too many stations, and there are only 4 that you can actually go outside the station. I know it's more realistic, but since when has Yokai Watch been realistic? I say just remove most of the useless stations and move the robo-yokais to somewhere else. The required stations, Harrisville and San Fantastico, are all the way at the end, making it so you have to wait ages to get there. It's also easy to not get off, as no is the default for some reason, which makes the quest, which shall not be named, very annoying, when yes is usually the default. It's nowhere near as bad in 3, as yes, Harrisville and San Fantastico are there, but they are completely optional. The required stations are Sparkopolis, which is literally only 1 stop away, which is especially good because that's before you get Mirapo. Can you imagine having to travel back and forth between Harrisville and Springdale before you get Mirapo? The other one is Greenfield, which is only 2 stops away, and that's where you get Mirapo. I love hovernyan as a character, cool design, cool personality. While playing through 2, I was constantly asking myself, when does he befriend us? Surely he's an auto-befriend. You get to the Kin and Gin rematch, and I'm like, surely now we get him, as I literally used him for the fight. I beat the game and I'm like, oh, it must be a post-game quest. Nope. I look it up, and he's a QR code daily yokai. Really? The mascot of the game, and one of the most important characters of the story. Half the people playing the game won't even get him because they don't know you can. It's always really confused me ever since I first played 2. And that's most of my complaints, but there are more, but they're minor ones. Like, I think Chapter 2 is boring and very short, and I wish the repeats from 1 were a little more different. Like, for example, they could have used a different yokai instead of Baku like they did in 3. Well, this is by far the video I've been most passionate about. I've thought about it ever since the Classic Only rerun. Don't get me wrong, 1 and 3's story have flaws like these, but they aren't nearly as bad as 2. I also want to note, I am more harsh towards this game's story, because I have no nostalgia for it. Just like 1 and 3, well, I got stuck in 1's case, and just stopped playing with 2 for who knows why, and 3 because I was scared of Zombie Night. That wasn't even that long ago. 5 years? Anyway, I was a huge scaredy cat, even though once I did eventually go back and play, which wasn't too long after, I was fine, so I don't know. Anyway, unlike 1 and 3, I never watched people play the story of 2 to avoid spoilers, though I did watch the post-game. I just never played it until a couple years ago when I finally did play it. Just because I dislike all these things, I still think 2 is an amazing game. Really good, just for the post-game alone. But the new features as well, like the Model Zero, Quest Arrows, Gates of Whimsy, and I could go on and on about reasons that I do like 2, and I still think it's better than 1. Anyway, as usual, like and sub if you like this and want to see more like it, and comment your opinion on 2's story. Not much else to say, so I'll see you in the next one.